Happy New Year! 2026 promises to be a very exciting year for new game releases, although it might also be a challenging year looking at the RAM price increases. Let's talk about that and the impact it might have. Also, Ubisoft got hacked over the holiday season and there's way more gaming news to go over. So good that you're joining the Sunday News Roundup. And let's go. There have always been pretty substantial rumors that the PlayStation 6 and the next Xbox would launch in 2027. I know this might sound way too soon, but that would be 7 years. And the PS4 came out in 2013, the PS5 in 2020. So that would be the same amount of time as the previous generation. And I will explain in a moment why the end of 2027 actually makes a bit more sense. However, rumblings this week suggest that the RAM price increases could cause next generation consoles to be delayed. You may have heard that Micron, one of the 3 major RAM manufacturers, has announced that it's exiting the consumer market entirely to focus on supplying RAM for AI data centers instead, simply because the margins are much better there. And this has led to massive price increases for consumer RAM, an increase of almost 500% in the recent months. So this is obviously bad news if you are looking to build your own PC, but Sony and Microsoft will feel this as well when they want to start manufacturing their next consoles. So Tom Henderson from Insider Gaming this week reports that the industry as a whole is concerned about the RAM availability and what that will mean for mass producing consoles at a competitive price point. The problem is that we don't know how long this RAM issue is going to last, because the AI craze is unlikely going to stop anytime soon. But you could totally argue that this is a non-issue because we don't need the next gen consoles yet, and I totally agree, as it doesn't feel like the PlayStation 5 has been fully utilized. In my opinion, mostly because of the lack of true exclusives made for the hardware. But in these Sunday videos, I of course like to dive deep into the business side of things, and from Sony's perspective, 2027 does feel like the right time if you want to keep the momentum going. The PlayStation 4 sold 117.2 million units over its lifetime, and the last reported number for the PlayStation 5 was 84.2 million units as of October 1st. So if we factor in October, November and December, it's probably sitting at around 87 million right now. The PlayStation 5 is constantly a little behind the PS4 if you would compare the sales over the same amount of time, so I think it's not weird to assume that the PS5 is going to do the same number lifetime as the PS4, so 117.2 million. Meaning that right now it only has 30 million units left to match those PS4 lifetime sales. The PS5 now sells a little more than 15 million per year, so with that pace it would roughly be 2 more years to reach that, bringing us at the end of 2027. And that's even without accounting for a potential boost from GTA 6, so adding an 8th year to the PS5's life cycle would therefore be very tough. And there are other things to consider as well. Launch titles are prepared years in advance. For example, if Insomniac is preparing Venom as a cross-gen launch title similar to Miles Morales, if they delay then the console by a year, then that game will also be pushed by a year, which would then likely also push Spider-Man 3 back by a year, simply to avoid releasing too close to Venom. Sony also likes to have several exclusive launch titles. Last time we saw Demon's Souls and Sackboy: A Big Adventure, followed by Returnal and Ratchet & Clank a few months after launch. So giving all these projects an extra year would be extremely costly, and I can still see, no matter what, Xbox going for that 2027 spot. I mean, the series consoles are kinda dying at this point, and they are going for a more premium console that should be more powerful than the PlayStation 6, so it being of a higher price and for a smaller audience already makes sense for their strategy. So if then Sony comes out a year later with a weaker console, it's not a great look. So I don't know if all of this combined is enough to justify delaying the PlayStation 6. The console will likely sell out in its first year anyways, as the most hardcore fans will show up regardless. If COVID did not delay a console launch, I'm not sure RAM price increases alone will, although they will almost certainly have a huge impact on pricing, with gaming becoming more and more of a luxury hobby. And of course, it's good to note, I can already see some of the comments, I know many of you will understand this, but obviously the PS5 will be supported even after the PlayStation 6 comes out. Sony said recently the PS5 is halfway through its journey. That does not mean that the PlayStation 6 won't come. Look at the PS4, that's also still being supported, it's still getting new games. in 2025, even in 2026, I think. Although there will be some live services that are ending this year for that console. So yeah, fascinating stuff. Curious to hear your thoughts, of course, in the comments down below. We'll be following it here on the channel. Leave a like, let's go over more news, and subscribe, because I post one of these big gaming news roundup videos every Sunday. Time for quick shots, news stories I'll go over quickly. Ubisoft got hacked during the Christmas break. Something always seems to happen in Rainbow Six Siege during the holiday season because Ubisoft closes its offices, so hackers tend to come back in droves since the chances of getting caught are much lower. This time, however, they went the extra mile by hacking the backend. As you can see here, they gave random people 2.1 billion renown and Rainbow Six Siege credits, which has an estimated value of around $12 million. Ubisoft performed a rollback, the servers are back online, although the marketplace where you can trade items is still offline. Now, there were also rumors that every Ubisoft game could leak after the breach because the hackers got all sorts of information, but that did not turn out to be correct. Of course, I'm like, okay, I'm curious about this, but I'm also glad that the leak did not happen. It would have had a similar impact as what we saw with Insomniac, but on a much larger scale. And that situation did not really help anyone. And speaking of Ubisoft, real quick, a new website called Prince of Persia senseoftime.com has been found and was updated on December 10th, 2025. The owner is Ubisoft, so we might hear more about the remake soon. A reminder that as of now, it's still planned to launch before April 2026. I also saw this report recently talking about 18 games that are ripe for remake or remaster success. According to research from Emperor Analysis, video game remakes and remasters released across 2024 and 2025 attracted 72.4 million players across Xbox, PlayStation and Steam. And yeah, the Oblivion remaster, the Resident Evil remakes, Final Fantasy VII, The Last of Us Part 1, all of these performed extremely well relative to the amount of money and effort put into them. So they know that Assassin's Creed, Chrono Trigger, A Link to the Past, Fallout, Rayman Origins, Resident Evil 5 and Uncharted Drake's Fortune are ripe for remakes. Nothing too surprising here apart from maybe Rayman Origins. Maybe they actually mean Rayman 1, and a remake of that seems to be actually in the works at Ubisoft. But yeah, obviously remasters and remakes are here to stay, so next to it having a way smaller budget, what we also heard, for example, in the case of Naughty Dog, is that the remasters were used to help new hires get familiar with their engine, while Intergalactic was still in pre-production and did not require as many developers yet. Emperor Analysis highlights more remasters and franchises that are ripe for remakes. Let me know what you really hope to see in terms of remasters and remakes in the comments down below. We got a quick one for the rumor roundup this week. Here I look at the biggest rumors of the week and rate them with stars. 3 meaning I believe it, and 1 means let's take this with a huge grain of salt. There's once again a rumor about a current gen version of Kingdom Come Deliverance, which will be 8 years old in February 2026. So this would not be a remake or remaster per se, just a more up-to-date version of the game. So I give 2 stars. The person who first posted this previously shared some Kingdom Come 2 information that turned out to be correct from what I've seen. Still, of course, it's not confirmed, but I think it does make sense looking at the success of the sequel, of course, last year. This coming week is actually bigger than you might think because January always kicks off with CES, and last year Sony announced the Horizon movie there and Ghost of Tsushima Legends, the anime for Crunchyroll. Well, of course, overall it's focused on all the tech that Sony will be putting out and all the other companies. Now, Sony will hold their show on January 6th, and I'll of course keep you up to date on everything that happens. Then my friend Luke Stevens has been working on a live show called New Game Plus, which will air on January 8th and feature 45 games, and they are teasing that Crimson Desert might be part of it, so I will keep you posted of course as well. The PlayStation Plus games will drop on Wednesday, although as you can see the lineup to start the year is not that great. I'll be live on Monday with my stream. You can set a reminder by clicking on the screen. After this it will go to Wednesday though for the time being, but I will let you know when that happens. And of course I will have a Sunday news roundup like this at the end of the week. So hope to see you then. Goodbye.